Hello, my name is Billy Bob Harris, and today we're on location at Flying Fish Restaurant, which is one of 5 concepts that encompasses now 31 restaurants. Shannon Wynn was the founder and one of the owners. He's got a great partner in Larry Richardson, and Keith is also a partner, correct?
Keith Slabs.
Keith Slabs, okay. Now, before Shannon created this culture and these names, and before we go through these really colorful names, we got to remember this is a very successful organization behind all these names. Shannon, we'll go over these names with you, and then we'll take a deep dive into Flying Fish. Was one of the concepts: Flying Fish, Meddlesome Moth, Rodeo Goat, Flying Circus, Flying Saucer, and the Mexican food places.
Miriam's.
Okay. Okay, Shannon, tell us. You created this culture and these names. Real quick, let's just go over Flying Fish.
Well, remember, this is kind of our second coming. So, starting in 1989,
Yep.
we reopened the 80.
And the 80 was your first restaurant, excuse me.
80 was our first restaurant, and then we had Nostromo, then we had the Rio Room, and then we had Tango, and we had Mexico, and then after those 5, we opened a restaurant called a nightclub called the Fast and Cool Club. So in 1993, Ed Bass asked us to put an 80 over in Sundance Square, which we did. And in 95, he said, look, I've got one of the most historic buildings in downtown Fort Worth. I need something to go in there. So I came up with this concept called the Flying Saucer.
Okay.
And it worked marvelously. And then went about building flying saucers all over the from Texas to North Carolina, South Carolina.
Okay.
At one point, we had 16 of those. In the meantime, we came up with a concept called the Flying Fish, which I started in Little Rock and and Addison at the same time. Brought it to Dallas. It worked great, and we have 11 of those.
Okay.
And somewhere along the line, a developer approached us and said, look, we've got a great opportunity down in this thing called the Design District in Dallas. Why don't you come up with a concept? So we had Flying Saucer, we had Flying Fish. It had to fly. So we came up with Meddlesome Moth. Because, you know, British pubs and beer joints always have a name of an animal. So that flew too. Then we put a fancy restaurant on Clyde Warren Park called Lark on the Park. Then we had an opportunity to do a burger place. Well, I kind of ran out of ideas for burgers. I didn't want to do the flying burgers, so we did Rodeo Goat. And my only link to somebody flying was a guy getting bucked off of the goat.
Okay.
So that's how Rodeo Goat got its name.
What was your first one, Rodeo Goat? Was that opened in Fort Worth? Your first one?
The first Rodeo Goat opened in Fort Worth.
Okay.
Right. The first Flying Saucer opened in Fort Worth.
Okay. Shannon, you've had a lot of success in this industry. Did you know all along that you wanted to be a restaurateur?
Oh, no. I just needed to make some money.
Okay.
And my favorite place, the Stoneleigh Pea, burned to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a place to go. And so I got some guys together and raised $30,000 and opened the 80.
Okay.
Did most of the work myself. And, you know, I think having been raised by a mother that had a lot of strong design eye and a father who was a developer and entertainer with Six Flags parks, I had developed unknowingly an eye for placement and for design. So I just thought I knew what people wanted, and I did it.
Yeah, good. That's it. I like that explanation. Now, Larry, you've had a rich background in the food industry.
Yep.
Give us a little history here.
Graduated in North Texas back in '75. Went to work for Bennigan's Steak and Ale Group for a couple of years. Then in 1982, went to work for Gene Street and Phil Cobb with Black Eyed Peas. Spent a good 5 or 6 years with them before they sold. Gene and I did some restaurants together. Went out to Florida, did Black Eyed Peas as a franchisee. Was great for 5 years and not great for the last 2 years. And loaded up the Volvo with kids and a wife and came back to Dallas. And Shannon met me on the corner and let me go to work.
Let you in the front door.
Let me in the front door.
Actually, his little brother was doing consulting for us, and he said, "Hey, my brother's coming back to Dallas. Why don't you give him a shot?" And I did some research. They said, "Oh, don't hire him. Don't hire him." And I interviewed him. I liked him, and that was history.
And how long y'all been together?
That was 20 years, 22 years.
Okay.
Oh, more than that.
Yeah, more than 24 years, 98.
Okay.
Yeah, 98, 24 years. Wow.
Like you said, it was good for a little while. I know y'all have challenges, but none of us knew. I guess COVID had the biggest impact on your industry of anything I can think of. And I know there wasn't a rule book you had to make some mid-flight adjustments.
Yep.
Let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about before COVID, during COVID, and now.
I think Shannon can tell you some of the kind of creative things we did, but Snapshot was, 1,200 employees before COVID, down to 175 during COVID. And in those first weeks, literally within a week's time, dropped that many employees.
Wow.
We're back to 1,000 employees now,
Okay.
and ahead of 2019 sales substantially,
Okay.
in the concept.
Okay. During COVID, you had 120 or however many employees, however many you had. What did they do? Was it all to go?
Well, in 24 hours, you go from what you do to a takeout format.
There were skeleton crews of cooks and managers and runners. So you're just taking food out the door. And, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I got my degree in biology. So I had to fight with everybody in the company going, this isn't going away. This is a virus. It's going to be serious. We got to take the science seriously. So we fought everybody, and the general public was very hesitant and fought back against us. And we had to take some pretty strong stance to say, guys, we're going to follow the rules.
Yeah.
And because, everybody was against the mask, everybody thought it was a hoax. It was just ridiculous. So we said no, and we set up crews to run the food out. And thank God the PPP came around because, and we followed those rules exactly as they were given to us. A lot of people in the restaurant industry took advantage of those PPP money, and they're now having to pay for it because the government's actually going after them.
Yeah.
But we dotted our I's and crossed our T's, got completely cleared of all of our spending and forgiven. So that was great, but it saved our lives.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay. Now, let's just take one day during COVID. You'd have somebody here, people call in, correct? Or
They call in or they pull up front. So we created queues on the front of the building, and it would be a line of people out there, and we'd have to get signs that say, park here, we'll bring your food out for you. And give them the telephone number. They could call in, place their order, and we'd run the food out. But like you said, we had to think fast, and these SWAT teams that we created, the managers get a lot of credit for that because they figured out the human response time and how to answer questions. So we had to learn how to respond to people's questions, how to tell them not to get out of their cars, how to tell them to put their mask on. You know, there's a lot of pushback, if you'll remember.
Oh, I do.
And and people didn't want to play.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so finally, people took it seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, how long did y'all serve outside? I mean,
Well, I mean, it was
5 or 6 months.
yeah, it was overnight. Then in March,
Yeah.
where you go
I
from
mean, they
full
shut us
service,
down.
full service, you get shut down, and then you reopen as a to-go because you're an essential part of the economy. And so basically, you turn your parking lots into drive-throughs. You move cash registers and the order taking and the servers to the front door.
gosh almighty.
And then it's just that kind of.
And all the while, your
adaptation.
people are getting COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
So we would have skeleton crews that, I mean, people, and back then we knew very little about the virus. And if somebody got COVID, we'd shut the whole restaurant down. I mean, we go dark. That's how.
Well, I don't know any restaurant that has come through this with the reputation that y'all have.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I hear on the street probably stuff that you don't hear.
Well, we don't hear much.
But unless it's a complaint. But I hear about how y'all treated your employees, how you treated your customers, and I know you had a lot of, like I said, mid-flight adjustments to make. But we're going to like to take a trip now through your restaurant.
Good.
Jake, our producer, loves the fish.
Good.
He loves the fish, okay? And I saw one sign over there that said, we'll take a picture of it, said even if fish kept his mouth shut, he wouldn't get in trouble, something like that. So, but in closing, I want to know, what are your plans for the future? Are you opening other restaurants? Are you opening other?
We currently have 2 rodeo goats under construction, due to open in July.
Okay.
We're actually getting ready to leave. When we leave this meeting today, we're going to look at location in Fort Worth for a possible goat and fish side by side. So yeah, somebody said once, if you stop growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
And we have a good product with great loyalty. People love our burgers and our fish and our beer, for that matter. And
Now, wait a minute, Shannon, let's go in. You got that one place down there that's down in this area that you have. How many beers?
Melton Mall.
How many beers?
Well, that's not the largest selection. It's 40 beers, but they're all real rare and expensive.
Okay.
So there are 40 beers on tap that you can't get just anywhere.
Okay.
And higher end food. It's called the Middleton Mall. The Flying Saucer has 80 to 100 beers on tap and about 120 in bottles. So,
Gosh, I didn't know there was that.
but
many
when we
beers.
started that, nobody else was doing that.
Yeah.
Now nearly everybody has 100 taps, because you can get it everywhere.
Yeah.
Go to your Whole Foods and you get it. When we started that, nobody had those beers.
Okay.
And we never sold the big three,
Okay.
Miller, Coors, or Bud.
Okay, so you're opening
2 to 4 a year
2 to 4 a year
has been our history.
with the same concept, Larry? I mean,
within that stable concept.
yeah. What about the locations?
Well, we're all over the place. We're in Dallas, we're in Fort Worth,
Okay.
we're in Arlington, we're in Firewheel, we're in Bentonville, Arkansas,
Okay.
we're in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we're in Houston, Texas. So,
Okay.
Memphis.
Okay.
and Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay. Now, is there a particular time? Or all of them open at the same time?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. All of them open at 11 o'clock and good till.
9 to 10 o'clock, depending on weekday or weeknight.
And
Okay.
one of them serves breakfast, which is the Preston Center one.
Okay. That would be the
That
flying
opens
fish.
Flying fish at 7 o'clock every morning.
Okay. How do you differ from that?
It's the only one that serves breakfast.
If somebody wanted to find out more about the flying fish and your different concepts? How do they go about it? Do you have a website? Do you have social media?
Oh yeah, we have websites. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Flyingfishinthee.net
Okay.
is our web address. But yeah, we're all over the place.
Okay. So people can find out about it and when you're open, and can they see a menu?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for your time here. I'm happy for your success.
You're our hero, Billy Bob. We wouldn't miss it.
I'm just kind of walking around following y'all. The door is open back there and I come slipping in here.